In this episode of Doom and Bloom, I sit down with Brian Stancheski, designer and founder of Bigger Creative and our New York City chapter leader. We explore ways to promote action around climate solutions, approaches, and interventions using the Think NATO process. Together, we tackle the challenge of getting more people aware of existing climate interventions and solutions. Brian discusses his thoughts on showing businesses the financial and environmental benefits of embracing sustainability. We dive into how design and communication can make sustainability more engaging and less of an afterthought. The Think NATO process led to a few exciting ideas, like hosting a beach festival focused on ocean conservation, creating mock beaches in inland areas, and organizing large-scale community events to promote sustainability awareness throughout the year. We also discuss the importance of highlighting the interconnectedness of global environmental issues while providing tangible local solutions. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Hey, how's it going, Brian? Thanks for joining.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
Been
it's
pretty
always
good.
a
How are you
pleasure.
doing?
Yeah, good. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. So before we get into the Think NATO process, could you share a little bit about yourself and your role within Climate Designers?
My name is Brian Stancheski. I am the owner and operator of Bigger Creative, where we try to change businesses' ideas on how they approach sustainability. And I am a climate design leader for the New York City chapter, and I've been doing that just under 2 years now. And I just like building communities.
Awesome. And just for those listening, Brian and I met finally in person earlier this year during the Project Blue Sky session in New Cuyama, California. Brian, I want to ask you this question that we're going to be asking every guest at the start of a Think NATO episode. How is climate action showing up in your work?
I've been approaching it by showing businesses how not only is it their responsibility to be more aware of their actions on the climate, but also how it could kind of be lucrative to them by saving resources that we're not producing things that are unnecessary. So it's really trying to approach businesses that aren't thinking about sustainability and really trying to magnify why they need to be thinking about it today and how they need to be changing the way that they're running their businesses. Yeah, that's pretty much what I do through a visual standpoint, I guess, design.
Great, good stuff. I want to bring up a particular challenge that we're going to be addressing over the next few episodes, but this is a challenge that, Brian, you actually brought up a couple calls ago. Sometimes, Brian, you and I jump on Zoom just to catch up and hang out. But this is something that has been on my mind also over the last few months. And I figured that this would be a good challenge to bring into this episode. We talk a lot about all the amazing solutions, approaches, interventions that exist today. But it's a shame that not a lot of people are aware of them. And I think that's a design problem. I think that's a communication problem. And so I would love to bring that into this episode. I would love to bring that into the next few episodes where we can start to unpack this challenge. How might we get more people to become aware of climate solutions, approaches, and interventions? A lot of amazing work is happening in someone's backyard, and unfortunately, they're unaware of that. They don't know what's going on. And that's a shame because they could contribute their skills in a positive way if they only knew what was happening. So let's take that challenge, Brian. I would love to take that and brainstorm with you using the Think NATO process to come up with how we can address that challenge. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Awesome. So step one of the Think NATO process is wait, why? So this is when we start to question reality. This is us taking into consideration the status quo, the doom part, if you will. This is our chance to be a toddler and ask the question, why, over and over and over again. And this is also an opportunity for us to start with that prompt, wait, why? Wait, why are people unaware of what's happening? So yeah, Brian, what are your thoughts? What are you seeing right now that's making people unaware of the wait, why prompt?
Wait, why is sustainability still the number one Google search?
Interesting. I didn't know that.
There's a site that you can look up what the number one Google search is depending on the subject. And if you look up sustainability, it's what is sustainability?
Interesting. Do you happen to know the results that tend to show up in those in those searches?
I do not. They don't show that, but they show you the top 25 questions The next one is like, how can I start being sustainable? So,
Mm,
wait, why are we not communicating these things better to people
hmm hmm
as marketing geniuses, as a lot of people say they are?
Sure, sure. Interesting.
Wait, why isn't sustainability more of a focus in our education system?
Yeah, you're making me think also, wait, why is sustainability viewed as an add-on, especially on a lot of these projects, right? Some of these design projects, they just check that one sustainability box and they're happy with that, as opposed to it being really ingrained in the project's DNA. I keep going back to that, the Google search. That's really fascinating. Why are people still searching what is sustainability? There has to be some sort of educational component to that, right? How can we do a better job of educating people on what sustainability is? And then to take that further, how can we do a better job of showing people, again, going back to the original prompt, how to actually show up in these spaces, understanding the solutions, approaches, and interventions in their backyard so that they can either work for these companies, they can either implement some of these solutions themselves, they can support, they can donate. Yeah, really fascinating. Let's move on to the next step. Maybe it's possible to. So, with some of these wait why statements, let's start to unpack that. The word maybe gives us the freedom to link unlikely outcomes. Maybe there's a better way. Maybe what we've been doing could be better. We're not coming up with a solution just yet. This is really exploring what's possible, taking some of these wait why statements that we just shared.
Maybe if we treated sustainability like a product and we got influencers involved, more people might know about sustainability.
Mm. You're making me think. I always go to like, how do we make something cool and sexy and desirable? Maybe it's possible to make sustainability sexy. I always go to like the Kim Kardashians and the Taylor Swift. I don't know, just like you get so many people showing up to these concerts, you get so many people buying certain products. Like, how do you make that so desirable that people are forming lines the day before it launches? How do you make it so desirable that people are knocking down doors to get ahead of just how do you build that kind of excitement?
Maybe it's possible to get people excited about sustainability outside of April. That's the only time that
Mm,
anything sustainability gets searched because of Earth Day. So if you look at the Google search, the spike is in April and then it tapers off and it's dead for the rest of the year. So maybe we
sure.
could get people excited about the Earth all year round
Mm, mm.
because that is a trend. It only happens when it's relevant. Maybe we could make sustainability relevant more often.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, Google searches is a weird thing. Like you look at that, you learn a lot about society just through looking at how they're searching things. It's weird. And when, because there's that too. It shows you the timeline of when it's happening and a lot of cultural things that occur. A lot of times when there's an oil spill or something, that's when there's another spike in Earth Day things. So maybe it's possible to get people interested in sustainability without there being a catastrophe.
Yeah. Maybe it's possible to be more proactive when it comes to learning what they can do as opposed to reactive after something happens. Awesome. Okay. We got a lot of great stuff to work with here. All right, Brian. So we're going to move on to step three. What if? This is the creative engine behind Think NATO. So using the Think NATO toolkit, which I have in front of me, it is a deck of cards that have various words and images printed on them. And you can learn all about this on the Think NATO website. But this is the part where we take a few of these cards and we pick them blindly. And this is gonna be a little bit different because we're virtual here, but we're gonna pick some of these cards, introduce these two random cards together, and those two cards are going to help us come up with new ideas addressing the challenge that we've been talking about. All of this helps us move past our biases to allow the most creative, outlandish, wild ideas to actually happen. If we don't do this, if we just continue to come up with solutions based on just what we know from our experience, we're going to just go to our filing cabinet of existing ideas and biases, and we're going to just produce the same expected normal ideas. So the Think NATO toolkit, one component of it is that it helps us break those biases apart so that we can come up with new, more unique, innovative ideas. So with that, Brian, I have my Think NATO toolkit in front of me. I'm going to pick 2 random cards that we're going to use to come up with ideas addressing the challenge. How might we get more people to become aware of climate solutions, approaches, and interventions? Here's the deal. I'll present the 2 cards. You decide if you want to keep them as a set or if you want to replace at least one of those cards. And then that's it.
That's right.
Whatever.
These are the 2 random words, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So you can either keep the set, as is or replace one of the cards, but then after it's set in stone.
All right. I can replace both cards, can't I?
For you,
or are we just doing one? Oh, thank you.
I'll make an exception for you because I like you, Brian.
I appreciate that.
Here we go. So the first card, we have the word sloppy. All right. And then the image card, we have an image of sand. So sloppy sand.
Sloppy sand.
What do you think?
Let's switch out sloppy.
Okay.
That's not an attractive word to me in sustainability.
Sure. All right. Now we have jolly. Jolly sand.
Okay, that's interesting. Jolly sand. Okay. This is the part where you think of adjectives, right? And you think of like an idea that combines the 2 of them, kind of something like that.
Yeah. We'll figure it out together.
This fun part.
Do you want to keep these?
Jolly sand. So I think we both spoke with someone. Yeah, let's keep them.
Okay, great.
Jolly sand.
Here we go. All right. So with this, we can use these literally, or we can use them as inspiration, as a starting point to come up with ideas addressing our big challenge. How might we get more people to become aware of climate solutions, approaches, and interventions? So yeah, jolly sand. What do we got, Brian?
Jolly sand. What if we had a festival on a beach that was making sandcastles that all had messages about saving the ocean?
Okay, we start there. We start with oceans first. Got it.
Sand beach, I guess. I don't know. I'm going to the very low-hanging fruit.
Sure. Jolly sand. The thing I think about sand is I spent some time in Death Valley, and they have tons of sand dunes and just beautiful, right? And being in Death Valley, it's the largest national park in the lower 48 states. I think it's like 4.2 million acres. And just being surrounded by nothing. I mean, it's not nothing. I should say that this way. Being surrounded by no man-made objects really puts you in perspective, right? Puts things in perspective. So for me, I go to like, how do we put people in situations where they can see themselves within nature and come out of it with some sort of changed experience, right? So really taking the jolly sand and pushing it beyond jolly sand. But again, I thought of sand and I thought of Death Valley.
What if we created a monument out of recycled glass that was in our national capital, where people can see, amongst all the other things that need to be represented, this recycled glass thing that makes people happy? Not something bad, but like a nice monument space. The byproduct of sand being glass, of course.
You're making me think of, art exhibits. Maybe there's a traveling art exhibit where these artists create these sculptures, glass being one of them, perhaps, and we can maybe elaborate on other types of mediums that speak to the solutions and approaches and interventions that are happening in their community. So maybe it's a traveling exhibit, or maybe it's not traveling. Maybe it's just an exhibit that's localized, right? So bringing it back to these local regions, highlighting what is happening in their own backyard. Going back to your idea of oceans, right? Being on the beach. What if there's an art exhibit? I'm in San Francisco, so we have Ocean Beach as one of our main beaches. What if there's an exhibit just next to Ocean Beach that highlights some of these solutions, approaches, and interventions happening around beaches, around the oceans, right? And it's inspiring enough that people can learn from and actually take action from it. Maybe there's representatives there that are representing various organizations, startups, initiatives, right?
what if we created mock beaches in interlocked lands so that they were more worried about the coast? Because there's so many people who are from Kansas who've never seen the ocean. Guess what? If we
Mm,
destroy it before you could visit it, you'll never experience it. So
mm,
if we can get the interior more worried about the coastal
mm,
problems and kind of replicate on your big lake a nice beach, and this is what the beach is, this is how it is, and get people out and happy they've never been to a beach before. So I don't know, something
mm,
simple. What if we were both on a podcast with Serena and she was talking about getting people introduced to sustainability through cleaning up your beaches, your sands, because she's in Miami. So what if it was just a big community day where we're just a global community meeting and all just cleaning a beach or some type of sand area at the same time? It could be in Dubai. It doesn't have to be the beach. It could be wherever it is that there's sand, the dirt.
You're making me think, I don't know, like I know the Guinness Book of World Records is a thing. Having the most people come together to do a beach cleanup or having the most people come together to do some sort of like, regardless of what it is, I'm wondering if
Mm-hmm.
we lean more into the spectacle of it, where you have aim for 50,000 people to show up to do one thing. Like that's going to make global news, regardless of the
And
action, right?
that's when you start getting people to search for things, so they want to search and see what this thing was.
Mm,
So that's how we
yeah.
get that search where people are not looking at it like, oh, BP oil spill, let me see how I clean the earth. Oh, look at this really cool event.
Hmm.
What's happening? Why aren't I doing that
Yeah.
here?
Exactly. Yeah, love it. Lots of crazy ideas off of Jolly Sand.
Jolly sand.
So,
Hey.
yeah, yeah. So let's move on to our last step here. We have tried this. This is all about taking action, breaking it down into small bets. So this is a big one. This is where if we want to move these ideas forward, we would do something to test out this idea. We would prototype and iterate based on feedback. Of course, we would want to do our research to ensure that what we're trying is the better option. We don't want to just do something that's going to maybe have unintended consequences. But for the sake of this whole podcast episode, this is just us breaking down some of these ideas that we just had into smaller bets. What would that look like if we were to take the Guinness Book of World Records idea? What would that look like? Or if we were to do these mock beaches, what would that look like?
For the interiors, I think that's a good one because that's a large part of our population. And when you look at the breakdown of people who are skeptical of sustainability and what impacts it has on them, it does tend to be somewhat those communities that are not necessarily the farmers themselves, but the farming communities. Farmers
Mm,
themselves, I think, understand the issue with sustainability. I think it's the communities around them who see the hardship and they just understand the economic part of it. So I think tackling something like that would be really great. And it could be anything as much as I mean, I hope it'd be more than like a little pool that you could set up, but something along that. Maybe it's revitalizing old swimming places. I know New York City has old community pools that have been decommissioned. That would be a great place to just dump some sand from a local quarry and have a little party or something and just get the community together and get them excited about some sustainable things about the beaches.
You're making me think this is also a really important way of showing how interconnected everything is. How something that's happening on the coast of the US, for example, affects something that's happening in the middle of the country. And I think that's lacking in a lot of just general knowledge. The idea that everything is connected, what happens in one part of the world is going to affect something else. And I think in the climate movement and various climate communications, I'm seeing some of that in there. It's not as, in my personal opinion, not as apparent or not as elevated as I think it should be. The fact that we're all connected, every living species is connected to one another. It really is an example of systems thinking, and it kind of shows the lack of knowledge around systems thinking that many of us unfortunately don't have. So I'm liking this idea. I think the think wrong component of this is a beach in Kansas. I can see kind of the spectacle of that, what that might look like. We can kind of flesh that out. But I think if we were to zoom out a little bit more, it showcases how, yeah, everything's connected. And what happens in one part of the country or one part of the world can affect your life here. So let's educate folks on how to do that so that then maybe the next step beyond that, which goes back to our original challenge, could be if I live in the middle of the country, if I live in Kansas, what can I do tomorrow in my own backyard because I learned what's happening on the coast of the US or halfway around the world?
This is a side note, and it's kind of related at the same time. I had this idea with, have you heard of this app called Commons? They have a bunch of basically commerce for that are more sustainable businesses. Instead of picking this company, pick this company because they do things cleaner. And just doing a pop-up shop. And instead of having the prices, have you ever heard of this girl who wrote the prices of the cost of lives to the Russia-Ukraine war, and she got arrested and she put them up as prices in the grocery store, and doing something like that where you've got Oreos and then you're showing, well, these Oreos don't cost $8.99. They actually cost this much from the cocoa farmers and this much. But if you had this solution, and offering them the sustainable solution, but also showing them the issue with the solution that we currently have. Because I think that, again, that disconnect, I'm just buying the Oreo, but I'm not realizing that the cocoa is coming from a farmer who's probably using children. You know what I mean? I'm not realizing that all these other things that are happening in other parts of the world or even in my own country are directly affected by me buying these Oreos. Just spotlighting like those choices that you have. Again, people are unaware of some of these companies because they don't get the viral pickup, and then people don't know that there are cleaner options for you out there. You know what I mean? So maybe it's partnering with sustainable hotels that have the funding to make this beach interior and things like that, to like bring attention to these things. Because you've got like one hotels which are in San Francisco, LA, they're always doing beach stuff, and they're a sustainable hotel. So if they can bring that message along for the ride and add that educational aspect to it as well, I think it becomes not just a, hey, let's come around and have a jolly time, but let's learn something and maybe take it with us. You know what I mean? I'm all about like trying to fit multiple things into one event. And it was great to have a good time and learn about the beach, but like, how can they take that with them exactly and like learn like, hey, maybe I should do this, or I can do this, or maybe we need to visit this place so that we're giving them our monies because they're cleaning the beaches over there. You know what I mean? Like, unless they know those things, they can't make those options. I can't pick something I don't know exists.
Great. I think with that, yeah, that's a wrap. Yeah, this is great. I'm digging what you're saying. I think it's just, yeah, how do we amplify the interconnectedness of everything while also providing people with the connections to their own backyard? Again, highlighting the connection between what's happening today and the things that are happening in people's own backyard, providing a way for people to learn who's doing what in their local communities so that they can maybe buy something more local as opposed to something that's made halfway around the world, using your last example here. So Brian, as always, great jamming with you. Always enjoy our conversations. And yeah, thanks for joining.
Not a problem. If I could leave you one last thing, I would definitely say when I approach any project in terms of a website or anything, I think of it in three ways: what, why, and how. And I think the big thing that we're missing in this whole thing is the why. We need to get people understanding why it's important to them. Because until they understand why anything is important to them, they're not going to make moves on anything, even if they have the options. They can have all the options. It takes a lot for somebody to make a change. So we have to supply that why. That is the big component in it, is why do you need to make this a focus? Why is this important to you? Why is this important to your community? And I think when we do that and we effectively do it, we'll start to see bigger and better change.
Beautiful. Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
No problem, man. Thank you for having me on. It's always been great. I love talking with you, Marc.
Awesome. That's a wrap. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Doom and Bloom. A big thank you to the incredible team behind the podcast: Camille Graham, Jacqueline Demchek, Holden Hardcastle, and our music producer, Albert Paul. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a comment. And definitely share it with someone who can use a little bloom in their life. Follow us on Instagram at climatedesignersorg. And don't forget to tag us in your projects. We'd love to see how our episodes inspire you. You can also email us at hello@climatedesigners.org to share how you're turning inspiration into action. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.